I had a super serious accident on my kind of deathbed. For me, that shook me. So it
what
takes,
was a car?
Yeah, motorbike head-on collision.
Holy shit.
So that was like
How old were you?
this was about 10 years ago. So I was late 20s. And, it was the greatest gift that happened to me. It was like, I knew it that night in the bed. I was coming out of consciousness and I turned to my best bud with me in Thailand. And I was like, I needed this.
Oh, you were in Thailand.
He just looked at me like I was crazy, like, dude.
He's like, you didn't need this. I could have just told you.
Yeah.
Right.
And, so for me, it took that type of event. I mean, usually it's a death that you're around. It's, it's the connection to the death.
Right.
The connection to death is the fuel to live. It's the ultimate paradox. And so I think death to me is at the core. I think it's one of the drivers in everything that we do. Like it
can be, right?
Subconsciously.
I agree with you. It is always there.
Exactly. Like we are always playing to, whether we take a risky job. Oh, is it going to, I think at the core, I lose my job, I lose my money, I lose my family, I'm homeless. I'm going to die. It's like, I think there's death that kind of upcycles, whether we actually correlate to that. But I think the more we are connected to death and having that in a healthy, that's sitting there, that's kind of like in the periphery of us at all times, because it is there. It is the guarantee in this current life that we have. Right. We are going to die. It is the guarantee. Like it's the only thing I will guarantee in your life. And to be connected to that, I think is the healthiest thing to be. Question I have for you on death: would you like to know when you were going to die?
Cool.
Or would you want to let that play out? It's just.
I like these questions. No, I wouldn't want to know. I think part of the mystery is I almost died too. I broke my leg playing soccer. The other guy broke his leg too, so I wasn't the weakest link. But I was talking shit, and then we went shin to shin and both broke our shins.
Wow.
And I spent 5 days waiting to get surgery. Long story short, ended up with an embolism from the surgery in my lung from the bone marrow and had low oxygen levels. And I remember laying in the hospital hallway at like 1:30 in the morning. And at this point, my family's not around because they're like, he just had surgery. He's fine. He's in recovery. And I remember being by myself waiting to, I think, get like a CT scan. And I used to chew tobacco. So when I was like 17, 18, 19, 20, I'd often hide it. But I'd chew tobacco all the time, but it was never in integrity with my priorities of health and wellness and fitness. And so I always wanted to quit and I'd try. But man, I remember in that hallway thinking, because they told me that having a fat embolism in your lung had a 40% mortality rate. And I remember thinking, I was only 25. I was like, I'm not ready to go. Like I had this real deep feeling of sadness and fear. And I remember thinking, if I get through this, I'll never chew a day again in my life, because why am I doing something that's speeding up my mortality? Like that, to me, was just so not gracious of the gift of life. I remember talking to Connor Beaton, my buddy. He was saying,
Connor.
Yeah. And Connor was saying, we were consulting for this business for these leaders. And he said in the workshop that every choice you make is pro-death or pro-life. There is no in between. And I was like, oh, fuck. That's so true. Like your choices are either embracing the value of your life, your heartbeat, the reverence you have
vitality,
for your body, right, or not. And I was just like, yeah, it's that simple. And how many of us are making pro-death choices, which feels heavy. I get that statement is heavy, but I think there's something about truth that hits you hard, but also you have to embrace how it hits you, because when you find out you're going to die, no one can sugarcoat that shit for you. But it's just like when someone has a toxic pattern. It's like, you have a toxic pattern. They're like, can you say it differently? Like, my feelings are hurt. And it's like, well, you're the one who has the toxic pattern. Like, dancing around it or putting it in a different wrapper might make it easier to hold. But eventually you have to actually sit with what I would consider, and this might be debatable to you listening, but I would consider that's the experience of healthy shame, which is the awareness that you have a better behavior available to you once you know something's toxic or bad for you. Would you want to know your expiration date? And I'm curious your thoughts on what I just said.
I mean, expiration date, no. I wouldn't want to know. I think the better question to what I asked you is, would you like to just die or have the situation where you have a terminal illness
Oof.
and you have this window?
You're really going for it. You answer that one first.
It's something I think about. Like death is something that's on the forefront. And I think about these questions a lot. Like I want to die gracefully. And when I say gracefully, like I want to die well. Like I want to meet the moment. I don't want to resist it. I want to when my time is. And I know it's a very ambiguous question because there's times to kind of fight for your life and you know, but I want to meet that moment. Like, and that's something I feel my whole life is preparing me for that. Like that's a deep core, like just belief that I have of what life's about. I think I would like a window to have with life. Some time. You know, I envision a life of, you know, Ryan and I are talking, my partner, about building a family and that. And it's like, I think about those moments of my family around me and like having that and having the opportunity to like, you know, there's closure and peace and like grieving that can be done in like a healthy way. I do think, long story short, I would like a window to know. That's like, I would also, the caveat would be, I don't want that to be a drawn out window. I don't want to like, you know, oh, we're not sure. It's like, no, you have 3 months, you know, and it's happening.
Yeah.
And I think there's something beautiful in that.